in Riyadh in May, the big fight in the history of boxing. In September, then 2 more fights in 26. Don't miss with the line.
Turki Alalshikh has just shocked the entire boxing world by bringing the most unexpected fight out of nowhere. Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. will be having their long-awaited rematch as a co-main event with the Canelo Alvarez versus William Skull undercard.
Is there ever a possibility where you would rematch Errol Spence? Or is he in a position where he needs to win again before that makes sense for you?
No one actually saw this coming. And it's not only good for the fighters, as they're all set for a mouth-watering payday, it's also good for boxing and good for boxing fans. Errol Spence's return has been heavily anticipated by boxing fans, especially when there were talks of him facing Sebastian Fundora. Unfortunately, talks collapsed and boxing fans were to wait longer for the return of the former World Boxing Association, World Boxing Council, and International Boxing Federation unified welterweight champion.
Shit, I'm about to take my belt off then.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
I'ma do it. Errol,
You don't need more than the belt. I don't know what you talking about. I ain't one of your kids.
I'm
You
gonna
don't
treat
need
you.
more than the belt. I ain't one of your kids.
Treat you like one.
Yeah, all right, we gonna see.
All right, we definitely gonna see.
I got feel for his power. Probably like first, second round. He's a strong dude, but everybody at this top level have some type of power. But
On Terence Crawford's side, it's been a huge issue as well, as boxing fans had been hoping he would get himself a tune-up fight at the super welterweight division or super middleweight division before going into the Lion's Den against Canelo Alvarez. For the longest time, it was looking like Terence Crawford wouldn't mind fighting Canelo Alvarez without a tune-up, as he looked weighty enough in one of his posts on social media where he weighed 186 pounds. Regardless, many felt this was the major difference between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence's fight 2 years ago, where Terence Crawford fought David Avanesian as a tune-up before getting into the ring against Errol Spence Jr.
I think because my time was out, he was catching me in between shots.
I get to say I told y'all because I've been asking for these fights for years. And y'all been saying, oh, he's too small. He's going to get this. He's going to get broken. And each and every time that I step up, I prove.
On the other hand, Errol Spence fought no tune-up, and the difference was extremely clear on fight night, when Errol Spence Jr. was dropped 3 times before he was defeated for the first time in his career by Terence Crawford by technical knockout.
I got a lot of skill sets I feel like advantages over him. But at the end of the day, I feel like this fight is basically so even. It's going to be more about just being more focused and, not getting out of focus, especially in the later rounds, just making sure, staying on point all throughout the fight and making sure you don't lose focus, because that's how you end up getting caught.
This became the major fear of many Terence Crawford fans, who thought the undefeated champion would be risking his boxing legacy and his undefeated record if he enters the Canelo fight without facing another 154, 160, or 168-pound fighter. Crawford's struggle in his super middleweight championship fight against Israel Madrimov was clear. The Uzbekistani was too strong for him, and his punches weren't as damaging as they were in the welterweight division, where he won all of his fights by knockout.
Like he should. He didn't do the things that his daddy told him to do. What are you talking about? Even his daddy said it.
You butthurt that I got to
Even his daddy said it.
You butthurt.
Even Kell Brook, he was already broken.
So was he broken when you fought?
No, he wasn't broken.
How come
I broke the other eye.
He came off
I broke the other eye. Yeah, that's how I got broke. That's how I got broke.
He came off a stoppage.
What does it matter?
He came off a stoppage and then he fought you.
Also, the punches from Madrimov were causing Crawford some pain, and despite him getting the win eventually, may believe he was undeserving of it. Now Terence Crawford has gotten a tune-up for himself, and boxing fans couldn't have wished for a better one than this, even if there's almost a certainty that Crawford wins the fight. It's a rematch of one of the biggest boxing fights in recent history, and it's also a tune-up as Crawford looks to face the biggest test of his career in September.
What does it matter?
Months prior.
What does it matter?
So was he broken or not?
No, he wasn't broken. No, he wasn't broken.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
What are you talking about? I had the same surgery he had, and what happened? So what they say about you then? You fight me then.
I'm gonna break that line.
So what they say? So I'm broken then, right?
Well, you broken. You gonna be broken July 29th.
Yeah.
It's everything boxing fans ever prayed for, and it's everything Turki Alalshikh promised boxing fans. Finally, the boxing world will no longer wait for the return of former unified welterweight champion Errol Spence Jr.
He got the size, he's strong, he's the big bad wolf, you know, so come fight night, we're gonna find out, you know, all that he say he is. He's gonna have to show me.
But this will be your 8th fighter at welterweight.
Spence has not laced up the gloves since being stopped by Terence Crawford 2 years ago for the undisputed 147-pound title. Since that loss, it looked like Spence would be moving up in weight to face World Boxing Council and World Boxing Organization light middleweight champion Sebastian Fundora. March 29th looked like the date for this contest, but plans quickly fell apart with Fundora on the hunt for a new opponent.
And there's the possibility. He win his fight, God willing. I win my fight, God willing. And there's your possibility right there.
Once the news about the Fundora fight falling apart became public, Spence offered an update on his career on X. "I'll be back when I'm ready," Spence wrote. A fight between Fundora and Spence would have been an exciting one, with the former having his breakout moment in a grueling battle with Tim Tszyu last year, which he won by split decision to unify the World Boxing Council and World Boxing Organization 154-pound titles. Turki Alalshikh, an avid boxing fan, promised that by 2025, he will bring several world-class fights. But the jewel in the crown could be the long-awaited fight between Saul Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford, which could be in the works for September.
I respect Crawford. He's a great fighter, and I always say that. No disrespect to him, but sometimes it's a little crazy that people talking about a small fighter like Charlo. He's big, which he is big, and everybody's talking about if I'm gonna face Crawford, fighter 147, who is smaller than Charlo.
7 of them have been stopped. Will Errol Spence Jr. get stopped on Saturday night?
I always tell everybody, I don't go in there looking for the knockout. I go looking for the win. But if he get out of line, he's gonna be the next one down.
Both fighters spoke, away from Al-Sheikh's radar, during a meeting in London last week, and it seems that they would have started the negotiating points for the long-awaited fight between two of the best pound-for-pound fighters today. The fight is planned to take place on the weekend of the celebrations for Mexico's Independence Day in mid-September, ESPN reported. ESPN boxing specialist Mike Coppinger noted that, from what I'm told, they're in the process of finalizing a deal for a fight in September, Mexican Independence Day weekend, and it will be in Las Vegas with the 168-pound weight limit, no rehydration clause.
So no make sense when you guys say that right now. At the end of the day, I don't want to have credit to face Crawford, but you never know. You never know in boxing. I'll go up and down and fight everybody out there. So it's possible. Why not?
However, there is one issue to be defined, and that is that Crawford would require an additional 14-pound weight jump to match the weight and category of the Mexican fighter. Canelo has been moving up in weight over the years, after starting out at super welterweight, where he won the World Boxing Council world title, and later became the unified middleweight champion. He made a brief stop at light heavyweight and defeated Sergey Kovalev to win the International Boxing Federation belt before dropping down to super middleweight, where he would become the first undisputed 4-belt champion. But former WBO and WBC light welterweight champion Tim Bradley doesn't believe either of the two can derail the Bud train. Instead, he feels Crawford himself is the only man who can end his reign of terror over the sport.
Your career like you did, Terence, wanting to move up 3 divisions, do you think his skill level is able to bridge the gap in those 3 weight classes? Because we saw how Jermell did against Canelo, and he's 1 weight class above, and he's bigger. How does he fare?
That's a tall order. It's a tough task, I would think, for Terence. But
I think the only person that can beat Crawford is himself at this point, Bradley told Fight Hype recently. Madrimov was the champion, and he must be respected. But as far as skill for skill, Crawford all day. I think he'll do well against Canelo, I really do. Would I be nervous if they were to fight? Hell yeah, because Canelo can punch, and all it will take is one big punch. But as long as he uses his legs, his athleticism, and his defense to get out of the way, then he should be able to beat Canelo. Interestingly, Bradley thinks Crawford can outbox Canelo just like Floyd Mayweather Jr. did 11 years ago when he defeated the Mexican star when he was 22 years old, fighting at a catchweight in 2013. Crawford is about to turn 37, has never fought above 147, and would be coming up in weight without being tested at 168 by the top contenders.
At the same time, I will back him. I think that his skill level is up there with the greatest. I don't think we've seen anything like Terence Crawford. In all my years of boxing, I know that for a fact. I do study history. I've never seen anybody that has everything. Good speed, power, timing, can switch the way he switches, to have the toughness.
More fans would agree with Bradley if Crawford were interested in providing himself at 160 against the Killers and at 168 to show that he can hang. The fans perceive Crawford is in a hurry to get a huge payday against Canelo and a golden parachute so that he can live in luxury in his retirement years. This is the problem, the fact that he fought against Jermell Charlo. Charlo comes in at 154, said Tim Bradley to Fight Hype, reacting to Canelo Alvarez, saying he's not interested in fighting welterweight Terence Crawford because there's nothing to gain from fighting him. Jermell moved up a couple of weight divisions to fight Canelo. He got in there and laid an egg. He just basically went in there and survived. He just felt like I'm not on Canelo's level, but the difference is the mentality of Crawford. He's a top pound-for-pound guy, said Bradley. Well, we don't know if Crawford will be any different from Jermell Charlo because he's not volunteering to test himself against some of the top super middleweights to give fans a reference point.
The meanness that he has, the way he finishes guys, the way he breaks down guys. He's one of the smartest guys that I've ever seen in the ring. Right up there with Floyd Mayweather. So yeah, I would pick Terence Crawford to beat a Canelo Alvarez, even at 168. Everybody can call me crazy and whatever you want to say. I get it. Y'all didn't believe me when I told you about Spence, but trust me, Crawford will figure out a way. I know
if Crawford chose to prove himself against David Benavidez or David Morrell, you could feel confident that he just showed up for the payday against Canelo without trying to win. Since Crawford has no intention of fighting anyone at 168 before fighting Canelo, you can only conclude this is about money and nothing else. Charlo was never a top pound-for-pound guy. The skill set of Crawford is what he brings, said Bradley. He's a competitor, man, and he's been after Canelo. He wants to fight Canelo, and I think he'll do well against Canelo. I really do. Now, am I nervous about the fight if they fight? Hell yeah, because Canelo can punch. That dude can punch, and all it takes is one. He hits a guy like Terence one time who's coming up 3 weight classes to be able to face him. However, just like we saw with Floyd Mayweather, he was able to outbox him in 2013 when Canelo was 22 years old and was able to outthink him.
Secret y'all don't know, and I ain't gonna tell you why I would pick Terence Crawford, but it's part of the secret is the reason why I'm picking him to win the fight. So
is it like a skill set? Is it like a preparation thing, or?
Nope, I'm not. Just gonna put it like this. If the fight was to happen, you will see. Yeah.
Because a lot of people think Terence can compete, but once he touches Canelo, because he's been hit by bigger guys, he's not gonna, I don't want to say show.
Bradley uses Mayweather as an example to justify his argument that Crawford can give up huge size against Canelo and beat him, but we really don't know if that holds water. Canelo fought welterweight Mayweather at 154. It wasn't a situation where Mayweather moved up to 168 and fought a prime version of Canelo who was at full strength. But Bradley had more evidence in support of Crawford. I think Crawford has that ability to outbox him, outthink him, make him miss, make him pay, said Bradley. As long as he's not catching too many of them and using his legs and his athleticism and his defense to get out of the way, he should be able to beat Canelo.
Own respect, but he's gonna be able to get, okay, I could walk through this. I could take a little risk and set up my traps, cut the ring off, dig to the body, and wear Terence down over the rounds.
I'm just gonna tell you like this. Yeah. If Canelo couldn't knock out Charlo, or you really think that he's gonna knock out Crawford? Charlo was on his bike. Charlo was trying not to get hit. Canelo landed some shots. He dropped them, but he still didn't stop him. He didn't stop him. So with
slow, plodding forward. Canelo's got a good jab, good quickness, and throws a lot of hooks. Crawford just gets away from all of those and gets underneath them. He should be able to beat Canelo. We're basing it on what Charlo was able to do. Charlo didn't do anything. He was scared. He didn't want to get knocked out. I don't blame him. He didn't want to end up on a poster. I understand that, but you said you wanted to be great. You weren't great that night. Crawford is daring to be great, and I think he can do it, said Bradley.
That being said, if Crawford can get off, not get hit with the big shots, avoid those big shots, get off again, avoid those big shots, because you see the punches coming. Canelo is so predictable, dude. You know a hook is coming. You know when the right hand is coming. You know he's going down to the body. He gives it away. There's a tell with him. There really is. And it's usually off the high guard. He comes in, he marches forward, then boom. Crawford's going to be able to see all of that.
While Canelo hasn't paid much heed to the challenge, the fans surely did, who are divided on what would happen. But Sean Porter, who knows quite well what Crawford could do, says he is concerned. It's a tough fight to predict, no doubt. Just look at Crawford's dominant performance against an elite-level boxer like Errol Spence Jr.
Kind of turned into kind of like a UFC system. How is it now you working with guys like Turki?
I think, Turki is great for boxing. He's stirring the boxing game up and, making all the fights that the fans want to see. He's a big fan, so he's able and capable of doing things that...
Just last year, His Excellency Turki Alalshikh made waves when he told ESPN, "Boxing is broken." Bold statement, right? But he wasn't just talking, he was taking action. Since 2022, the chairman of the General Entertainment Authority has been pouring his passion and a whole lot of money into the sport. As a result, he made Riyadh the go-to destination for major fights. From Dmitry Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev, both I and II, for the undisputed light heavyweight crown, to absolute blockbusters like Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua's clashes with Daniel Dubois and Francis, Alalshikh has played a key role in reshaping boxing's landscape.
Fans, today marks our final day in boxing. I want to thank everyone who has been a part of this journey with me. To my dear friends scheduled to fight on the London and New York cards, I apologize for the time and effort you put into training camp. I wish you the best of luck in your future fights, as those events have now been officially canceled.
That the promoters can't and don't want to do. A lot of fights that we want to see, but we don't want to pay for.
Right.
He's paying it. He's paying the fighters what they want.
Smiling a little different nowadays.
No, I'm just saying. I've been smiling good.
you been eating good. You smile full of gold. You go all gold, all gold.
Nah.
And he didn't stop at Riyadh. His vision expanded to include events in the US and UK too. But here's where things get interesting. After just a year of being one of the sport's most influential figures, rumors are swirling about his potential retirement. So what's really going on? Let's break it all down. Yesterday, His Excellency Turki Alalshikh took to X and dropped a massive update. Well, boxing fans, it looks like the Turki Alalshikh era has officially come to an end. In a heartfelt message, Alalshikh announced his retirement from boxing. He didn't just walk away quietly, his departure also came with some major cancellations. If you were looking forward to the upcoming fight cards in London and New York City, we've got bad news for you.
Yours truly, Turki. End of the quote. Nah, I ain't no genius, but coincidentally today is April Fool's, and I believe this is a big April Fool's joke. With that being said, there's no doubt about it, Turki has brought boxing back to life on certain weeks.
See how relaxed his shoulders is back there on the couch?
See, this is the thing. Like, man, I got a lot of investments, a lot of smart investments, so coming up, I was smart with my money, so a lot of people...
His post read, "Dear fans, today marks our final day in boxing. I want to thank everyone who has been part of this journey with me. To my dear friends scheduled to fight on the London and NYC cards, I apologize for the time and effort you put into the training camp. I wish you the best of luck in your future fights, as those two events have now been officially canceled. Yours, Turki." In his message, Alalshikh personally apologized to the fighters who had been training for those bouts, acknowledging all the time and effort they put in. He wished them well in their future fights, but unfortunately, those two events just won't be happening under his watch. But let's be real, if you were paying attention, you probably already questioned the timing of the announcement. And yep, you guessed it, it was all an April Fool's prank. Some people totally fell for it, but a lot of fans saw right through it from the start. Turki Alalshikh was just having some fun, pulling the strings to see who would take the bait. And let's be honest, he got a few of us, didn't he?
But here's the problem with that. We cannot be going months without watching boxing, at least quality fights. I ain't talking about ultimate cherry pick some fights no one cares about, like Zabeta versus Tevin Farmer rematch. I'm talking about significant fights, fights that matter.
If you've been following boxing news, you know that TKO Group Holdings, the powerhouse behind UFC and WWE, just locked in a massive multi-year deal to launch a new boxing league backed by Saudi Arabia. And guess who's leading the charge? His Excellency, Turki Alalshikh. Alongside UFC President Dana White and WWE President Nick Khan, Alalshikh is set to reshape boxing as we know it. There's been a lot of buzz about how this league will actually work, especially with most of boxing's biggest names tied up in promotional deals. But Dana White cleared things up in a recent interview with ESPN, saying, "It's all going to go away. There's going to be one belt. It'll be like the Ultimate Fighting Championship. The model is the model that we have in Ultimate Fighting Championship, World Boxing Council, International Boxing Federation, World Boxing Association, and more."
We'll say, oh, well, he only fighting one time a year because I can wait out, my opponent or wait out whoever because I never was starving for money. A lot of fighters, they have to fight. I don't,
That means no more World Boxing Council, World Boxing Association, International Boxing Federation, or World Boxing Organization chaos. Just one true champion per division. On top of that, the league plans to cut down boxing's weight classes to just the originals: flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight. That's a lot of work, and His Excellency Alalshikh needs to take care of all the issues that will come along the way. And let's not forget, there's a huge event in New York next month. Fatal Fury and Canelo Alvarez just signed a 4-fight deal under his Riyadh season. And that's all for now. For the very best updates on news, moments, events, and actions in the world of boxing, stay connected with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications to get notified when we drop quality contents like this. Until next time, peace out!